Hey everybody, this is Ruben from Nortia Staffing, and today we're going to be talking about how to register for Paychex, your timesheets, and how to approve your timesheets. I wrote that. Let's talk about registration really quickly. By now you should have received an email with details about how to register into Paychex. If you've done so already, thank you so much. If you haven't, please look at your email and see if you have it on your junk mail, or if not, I could send it to you again. Let's go ahead and take a look at how to do your timesheet and how to approve it.
Okay, everybody, so let's start by navigating on your web browser to myapps.paychex.com and sign in using your username and password. Once you're in here, go ahead and navigate to the drop-down menu button on the left, which is right here. Click on that, and then go over to time and attendance. A quick note about this. If you do not see the time and attendance tab, please get in contact with one of us so that we could take a look at your account and activate the rest of your account so that you could have access to these specific tools. Okay, so once you click on time and attendance, you will see apps like Actions, Schedules, and Time Cards. So Actions and Time Cards are the ones that we're going to be using for Nortia as a whole. Schedules, don't worry about it too much. So just worry about the actions and the time cards. Okay. How to log your timesheet. So your timesheet has to be logged under the Actions tab. This is where you're going to be putting all your punches, deleting punches, editing punches, and all that type of stuff. So let's go ahead and start by putting some different punches into our Actions menu so you can kind of see how that works. Okay, there are a few things here on this screen that you should probably be pretty familiarized with so that it doesn't become really confusing for you. Your time entry is divided by a couple of different fields here. If you could see under type here, you have drop-down menus for work, and if you click on it, you could see meal, bereavement, holiday, jury duty, sick, unpaid, and vacation. Under start time, you will see fields where you could actually edit your time in, your end time, obviously your time out, and this little section right here is for notes. For the purpose of your timesheet, you will probably not use the notes section all that much. So let's go ahead and say that I worked on Monday from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. I would go ahead and leave the 8 a.m. field as it is. Then I will click on this field here and I would put 6 p.m. Note that the way that I'm writing it is pretty informal, and when I press tab, the system goes ahead and adds this specific PM, AM denominations and the rest of the numbers for you. So now you have your time in and your time out. Okay. If you take a look up here, you could see that for that day, if we were to leave this exactly as it is, you would only have 10 hours of work and nothing else. Obviously, because I'm a pretty good guy and I like to take care of myself, I take lunches. So I'm going to go ahead and add a lunch for that day. I'm going to click this little plus button here, and that's going to add a second line. That second line defaults always to work. This is something to keep in mind because if you create that second line for your meals and you don't put meal here, it would actually think that you're doing a clock in, clock out again, and it will not log your lunch properly. So let's go ahead and change this work denomination to meal. Okay, and I took my lunch time today or on Monday for this specific exercise at 1 p.m. So again, I click on the field under start time, And I will delete that. And I will say 1 p.m. Sorry about that. 1 p.m. I click right on over, and I will put 40 minutes of lunch, which is what I usually take. So that would be 1:40 p.m. Okay? As you could see, the system just tabulated that second line and it added a meal. But then it sort of went cookie on you and added a third and fourth line. Do not worry. That is completely normal, and it's just the system giving you an idea of your time in, time out, time in, time out, time in, time out. So let's take a look at it really quickly. As you can see here, what the clock did was it split your work times in two. Here's 1 and here's 2. For instance, I started at 8 a.m. until 1 p.m. and then I took my meal from 1 p.m. to 1:40 p.m. I resumed work at 1:40 and left at 6 for a total of 9.33 hours. This other line here, you could completely forget about it. Don't worry that it's there. It will not do anything for you if you don't touch it. So you should be fine. So let's move on. I'm going to continue entering my times for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday here really quickly, so you could kind of see how easy it is. And also on Wednesday, I was sick for the purpose of this exercise, of course, and I'm going to note my sick time as well. So let's go ahead and do Tuesday. So Tuesday, I arrived at 9 a.m. and left at 3 p.m. Again, note that regardless of how I do my timekeeping, the system reverts back to the proper time format. All right, so I have my 9 a.m. and my 3 p.m. here, and that's a total of 6 hours. Again, I took a little break for 30 minutes for lunch, even though I only work 6 hours, so I'm going to add my lunch. So I click on my little plus sign here. I go to meal, and I took my meal from 11 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. All right, so now it has logged my meal, and when I hit enter, it will again calculate my punches, and it breaks them down again. So I worked from 9 to 11, took my lunch from 11 to 11:30, and I worked from 11:30 to 3. Same as before, with a total of 5.50 hours here. Actually, it's 5.5 hours, but 0.50 to 100, right? Now, let's keep going with the rest of the week. On Wednesday, I came into work at 8, but I was feeling really bad, and I left at 9 a.m. that day. So I only went in for 1 hour. I was feeling pretty crappy, and so I had to leave. Since I've been with Nortia for 3 years now, I have plenty of vacation time and sick time and all that type of stuff. So I'm going to add some sick time, which is something that you will be eligible for, of course. So I'm going to add my little green cross here, plus sign. And then I'm going to pick from the multiple picker sick time. And I'm going to say that my work day was supposed to be from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. So I'm going to do from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. All right. So far so good. So again, if I press tab or enter again, if I press tab, actually nothing happens, it just goes to the next one. But if I would press enter, it will calculate everything else again. And it will give me more information as far as my Wednesday. So for my Wednesday, I had only 1 hour of actual work and 8 hours of sick time. Then I came back Thursday and I worked my regular hours of 8 to 5. And I took a lunch. Not bereavement, I'm sorry. I took a lunch at 11 a.m. But this time I took a whole hour. So 12. And as you could see, the system understood that 12 came after 11 and it would be a PM because we're not working overnight. There it went. I could press enter again. Tabulates my hours. And there you go. Now I have 8 hours for Thursday. And today, Friday, I worked again, for the sake of this exercise, from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. And I took a lunch at 11:30 to 12:30. So I'm gonna click on my plus sign, go to my meal, and I'm gonna say 11:30 to 12. So I only took half hour. How about that? Okay. Let's say that I'm ready to go. I have no issues. I did my timesheet. I pressed enter on everything. The system created the 4 lines that it usually creates that allow me to see, like I said before, your time in, the time out for your lunch duration, your time in, and your time out. Excuse my cat, if you could hear him. She's old. I said him, but it's not, it's a she. Anyway, let's keep going. One more thing to note. If you take a look here on the top, you should be able to see that this is the current pay period. Always make sure that you're under the correct pay period before you do any of your time sheet entry. Another thing to note is this total hours little sticky here. Don't worry too much about that one. It gives you a little bit more information of the total amount of time that you were engaged in work activities, either on or off the clock for the week. So if you take a look at here, you could see that you worked, or for this example, me, I worked 33 hours with 33.33 hours. I had a meal of 2.67 hours during the week, and I have 8 hours sick time for a total of 44 hours. All right, this looks pretty good. So what do we need to do next? Next thing would be to submit or submit and close. Since I've been hitting enter every time I do this, the system has updated its selections, but it has not submitted anything yet to your timesheet approval section. Okay? So what you have to do is you just hit submit and close. That will record all of your times, and it knows that you're done putting in time for now. Okay, so now we're back to the same screen as before with your options of actions and time card. So now that you have all your hours, it's the end of the week and everything's fine and dandy, right? We need to go ahead and take a look at our timesheet again just to make sure that it's fine before you approve it. The way to approve your timesheets is to go by and click on the time cards menu. All right. So now that we're in the time cards menu, you'll be able to see your timesheet in a more concise manner. To recap, we have the actual pay period dates right here, the day of work, the work type, the date worked, time in, time out, your regular amount of hours worked, your amount of overtime hours worked, and any unpaid notes. So as you notice here, unpaid and notes are next to each other. Here's your lunches, and if there was any notes for you to kind of keep an eye on, they will be right here. So let's say that everything went well with me, and I think that most of this stuff is pretty good, but I'm not quite sure about a couple of things. Note that if you have used sick time or anything other than work periods and meal periods, your timesheet will actually show the work hours as well as the non-work hours separately for that day. If you worked a regular shift, it will only show you this portion unless you use your magnifying glass here to the left. If you click on the magnifying glass here, you will be able to take a look at all of your punches here. So you could see here that it was for Monday. I had my work from 8 a.m. to 1. I had my meal from 1 to 1:40. And I went back to work from 1:40 to 6. This looks pretty good to me, so I'm going to go ahead, close that, and I'm going to put a little green tick to that because I know that that one was perfect. My next work one, which is Tuesday, I worked from 9 to 3, and I had no lunch. So I know that. As a matter of fact, I did have lunch because you could see here that I have 0.50. These hours look good to me, so I don't have to open the little magnifying glass, and I'm going to go ahead and say, yep, that's what I did. Now, my Wednesday was kind of weird. I actually did not go home sick. I just chose under my drop-down menu sick time. So obviously I have to make sure that this is done properly. How do we do this? Well, since you haven't approved anything for submissions, and even if you did, you could still do some adjustments. You could simply just click to your left or your right of the current screen, and you're back onto the regular menu. From there, you could go back to your actions menu, and I would find Wednesday when marked workday was the full day, but I by mistake said that I left at 9 sick, which I didn't. I ended up not leaving. How about that? Okay, so now we have to fix this. How would we fix it? I would suggest that the easiest way to fix a punch is by deleting your punch completely, because the system does do certain things kind of wacky, and I'm going to kind of show you here if you want to see what happens. So let's say that this is wrong. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to change the denomination to meal, actually to work. And then I press tab and I press enter. Okay. So now that I did that, for the sake of this exercise, everything looks pretty good. There are times, however, that if you're just changing one denomination, the timesheet could do something strange and add a couple more lines, and then it's just very intimidating. There's a lot of X's everywhere, and it looks really crazy. So the easiest way to really do any type of edits to your timesheet is locate where the problem was, which for me was Wednesday, and I just want to start over. So I'm going to click X on all of them. I'll go ahead again and press my green little cross here, my add sign, so I could add another worksheet for Wednesday. And this time I'm going to say I actually worked until 6. Note that right here it didn't know how to do the AM PM, so I'm going to go ahead and change that again to 6 PM. Oops, sorry about that. And there you go. So now I have, again, 10 hours of work. Now, I pressed enter, it did its thing, and it added a second line, right? I'm going to add my meal now. So I'm going to go here, add a meal, and my meal was from 11:30 a.m. to 12 p.m. So that was my punch for that day. The only thing I have left to do is to submit and close again. System will submit. I go here. And now I have my updated timesheet for the week. So now I could go ahead and take a look and see if I did everything properly. All right. Monday, I worked from 8 to 6, and I had 0.67 of a lunchtime. You can take a look here. Meal from 1 to 1:40, which is 40 minutes, or 0.67. All right, so this looks pretty good. I'm going to say yay, right? So there you go. Tuesday, left home, and I know that. Actually, no, I didn't. Worked a little less, and I had a little bit of a lunch. That looks good. My Wednesday looks pretty good since I just fixed it. It shows the right amount of overtime and the right amount of lunch. So that one's good. Thursday, 8 to 5. That looks pretty good. It was 8 hours. I didn't take a lunch. Or did I? I did. I took an hour lunch.
So that one looks good. And finally, Friday, 8 a.m., 6 p.m., a little bit of overtime, and a half hour. I'm not too sure about this one, so I'm going to just double check really quick, look at my ins and outs. These all look good. Close that. And then finish your approval. Another thing you could do that's kind of cool is if you really know that you did everything right, instead of going through each and every one, you could just click here. And it will select all of your timestamps for you. Now that we're ready to go, I have checked all my stuff. I look at my totals here, and they look pretty good. I worked 37 hours this week with 4.3 hours of overtime, and I took 3 hours of meals. So that looks pretty good to me. I'm going to go ahead and say save. And that's it. Let's see if it saved my changes. Sorry about that. There you go. And there you have it. They're all saved. This is pretty much all you need to do in order to successfully input your timesheet, edit your timesheet, delete mistakes, and approve your timesheet. And that's it. Pretty easy, right? If you have any questions about submitting your timesheet or approving your timesheet, please reach out to one of us. Remember, all timesheets are due on Friday, except if you work on the weekends. Thank you. Bye.